All right, it's time to bring on my gorgeous guest. You know her, she's a soap superstar. She was my wing woman out on the town last night. It's my chum, Claire Sweeney. Hooray! Gosh, it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming.
You look lovely.
Absolutely brilliant to see you here. Now, I think we should draw a veil over the fact that we were actually partying last night.
Well, you say that.
And a veil over whether we did actually come straight here to the studio or whether we went to bed or not. And if we did, who with, or anything of that kind. I don't think we should discuss, do you?
Well, we both left kind of early, didn't we? Because we knew what we were doing today.
We knew we had to look our best and get some beauty sleep. But we have known each other, well, for years and years. But really, we cemented the friendship on Celebrity Big Brother.
2001.
2001, 23 years ago.
But I first met you. I went to a party at your house with Jonathan Charlotte.
Oh, yes.
Like 1999.
I thought you were going to say 1803.
Remember that big sweeping staircase and all that?
Oh, that's a different house. That was before the divorce. That was my rock star mansion I lived in for all of about 10 minutes before my husband started.
Well, I went there.
Oh, you went there?
And that was before we knew we were doing Celebrity Big Brother.
Gosh. But what about when we did that show and would you, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you agree we had no idea whatsoever what we were doing?
Well, reality TV didn't exist. No. There was no jungle, there was no ice skating, there was nothing. Reality TV wasn't even a thing. There'd been one series, which Craig from Liverpool had won, and it was for comic relief. We didn't get paid, did we?
No.
There was no cameras in the bathroom.
It was partly shown on BBC One and partly on Channel 4. Do you remember that? There was no prize, there was nothing.
Well, it was huge though, wasn't it?
But we didn't know if anyone would be watching at all, did we? We had no idea what we were getting into. Let's just have a little look. This will remind you of what happened on the show.
Well, as you probably know, I've lost a great deal of weight, and I've done it mostly through exercise. So when I'm in the house, I want to make sure that I do keep up my training, particularly my boxing and my kickboxing. And I suppose if I've got any trouble with the blokes, I'll be able to sort them out, won't I?
Yeah, who was I trying to fool with that routine, honestly?
You look better now, you look great.
It's nice of you to say so. 23 years ago, we didn't know if anyone would be watching, but the thing we really didn't know was what it was going to feel like having to nominate somebody for eviction. Do you remember what happened?
I hated it. Well, you see, your memory is brilliant. You've got like this photographic memory, haven't you?
Yeah.
I remember being traumatised about, we had to vote someone, and I voted Anthea Turner, didn't I? Mm-hmm. And I remember it was the most awful feeling. I felt so... And nowadays, I mean, reality TV, people go in with a game.
Well, people are used to it, but we were not used to it. We'd had nothing to watch, so we couldn't know what was going to happen. So if people remember, we voted... Anthea was voted. It was Anthea and Chris Eubank, the boxer, who were voted and nominated for eviction. And what actually happened was that Anthea began to cry. And do you remember? And it was agonising. And not only was it agonising, but all around the place, we could see the cameras... turning round to capture Anthea crying. And why was she crying? Because it was all our fault, because she'd been nominated and suddenly it didn't feel like a game at all. And we'd literally only been there, about 5 hours or something?
Do you know what was weird for me as well, Vanessa? Because I was in Brookside, and if you didn't watch Brookside, you didn't know who it was. You had your daytime TV show. Anthea was Good Morning Britain. And I felt as if I felt like an imposter. I felt like I was in with these massive stars. And suddenly you're going to have to go in the diary room and nominate one of them. And it was bizarre.
I think we thought it was going to be a breeze and we thought it was going to be a game. And the moment Anthea started crying, with good reason, because she didn't want to go out first, and I didn't blame her at all. It suddenly didn't feel like a game. It felt horrible, didn't it?
Yeah.
And also, we were being turncoats and we were being filmed doing it. So anything we thought, she's laughing now, it wasn't funny then, and anything that we thought we were going to feel, we suddenly didn't feel, did we?
I know, but my favourite moment was when you wrote on the table.
I wonder whether we might have some footage of that to show. Not necessarily my finest hour, I've got to say.
It was brilliant.
Did you think so?
I mean, well, what got me? I'm from Liverpool. If we have a Barney, we all shout at each other, you know, maybe a few curse words. And that was your way of, like, letting loose, was writing all these big words on a table.
Well, for the rest of my life, I'm going to be known as the first person in the whole world to tell Big Brother to off. You know, that was me.
Nowadays, at the time, it was like a scandal. Nowadays, you'd win on the back of that.
Good point. I mean, times have definitely changed. If people have forgotten all about it, and why shouldn't they? It was 23 years ago. Have a look at this.
Yeah, I know, just say it.
Listen, can we just play one more time?
This is Big Brother. With Vanessa, please come to the diary room.
No.
You losing the plot there, Vanessa?
Yeah.
Look at you. horrified. You look horrified. Anthea looks like she's going to faint. And Anthea's going to be a guest on the show, I think, in a couple of weeks. What I was thinking was, no, I'm not giving back the chalk. There's nothing to read. I'm going to write something that I can read later. I was writing discombobulated, defenestrated, all sorts of things. And then when I came out, people were saying, for the next, 500 years, what were you writing? Were you having a nervous breakdown? Were you okay? It was a hell of a thing, wasn't it?
One of my other favourite moments, Vanessa, was, we kind of got to know each other in there and, girl talk, all that. And then you had to write a column for a newspaper.
The Daily Express. I still do, still writing it.
And they brought a typewriter in for you.
An old manual typewriter
I remember you
the 18th century.
And I was so impressed the way you'd articulated what we were feeling, everything that was going on, the way you'd put it into words. That was when you suddenly you become so respectful of your mate and their talent and what they do.
Thank you very much. But talking of talent, and I didn't know you were going to say that, so I didn't know I was going to say this, but I am. You were singing a lot, which I do not blame you. A, you've got the most magnificent voice, but B, what the heck else were we meant to do in there? And also C, if you were singing, you weren't getting yourself into trouble by saying something inappropriate, doing something inappropriate. Yeah. So you were singing.
And I came out and got a record deal, didn't I?
Exactly. A record deal. You ended up in Chicago. I mean, people hadn't realised that you were such a great singer.
That was it. That was it. I mean, it was funny because I came out and got all my dream jobs for sitting in a house drinking tea for 2 weeks.
Isn't that amazing?
It was like ITV and Saturday Night Show, Chicago, Face of Marks and Spencer's, all these wonderful jobs. And it was amazing because, as we said, we didn't know then how reality TV could help or hinder your career.
No, because it can ruin it. And I always think that now, when you see the lineup for any show, you think, do you know what you're doing? But it's potentially such a poison chalice, isn't it?
But it wasn't then.
Well, we didn't know what it was going to be, but it could have been that you said or did something that ruined your whole life. You don't know.
But we were also protected. It was under the umbrella of comic relief.
Yeah.
So we weren't getting paid, and it was a different thing then. There was more innocence to it. It was not as exposing or, as you said, dangerous.
I think I was pretty exposed, sobbing my head off, wailing, weeping. Okay. And my kids said that I was the precursor, I was the originator of the kind of celebrity reality TV meltdown. Yeah, because I did the first one, snort, tears. And do you remember how I turned the diary room chair around so you could only see the back of the chair, and all you could hear was me weeping, sobbing, rending my garment.
I said you'd win now doing all that.
I know, but since then they make the chair static so no one can turn it round.
Oh, really?
Of course. They don't want to just see the back of a chair. They didn't think of that when it was me, did they?
Oh,
my gosh.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoy it. It was definitely a sort of ordeal, but for the rest of my life, I've never been short of something to talk about at dinner parties.
I love it. I loved it.
You were in a different stage and you were in a different kind of space. I'd just been through a horrible divorce. I was a bit vulnerable. I think my girls took a bit of a while to adjust to, seeing their mother melting down. Anyway, it's over. It was a long time ago.
We're still
23 years ago. We're still talking about it. And it definitely did make us some very good friends. And every time I see Keith Duffy, he says, they'll never know. They'll never know what we went through, Vanessa. They'll never know. And they never will. Although we're trying to tell them, they'll still never know. But